embark on a journey of discovery into the heart of North American family stories. Welcome to the How We Got Here podcast, where family historian Brian Nash connects with guests to explore the often untold and always fascinating histories of their ancestors. Prepare to be moved, surprised, and deeply connected by these personal accounts. And remember, every family has a story to tell, and every story is worth exploring. In this episode, Brian talks to Joe McPherson from Glace Bay, Nova Scotia. Joe is the creator of the Facebook group You Know You're From Glace Bay When, which has connected thousands of people from the area. He discusses how the group and his writing about the community have helped people relive memories, reconnect with old friends, and remember a town that has changed significantly since its days as a bustling coal town. Joe recounts growing up in Glace Bay in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, sharing stories about shooting the drag, the St. Paul's Church fence as a youth meeting spot, and the diverse businesses run by immigrant families. He also talks about organising the Fence Folk Reunion in 2010, which brought people home from all over the world and raised thousands of dollars for local charities. The conversation highlights the importance of preserving personal and community history through storytelling and the power of social media to connect people and keep memories alive. So sit back and grab your favourite beverage. Perhaps a nice cold bottle of your favourite beer? Unless, of course, you're listening to this while you're driving, then you better stick to coffee.
Welcome back to How We Got Here Genealogy. Today I have Joe McPherson from Glace Bay, Nova Scotia on Cape Breton Island. It's a place where my mom is from, and he's part of a Facebook group called You Know You're From Glace Bay When. And it's something with having a family connection to Glace Bay. I've really enjoyed since I've discovered it, revisiting a lot of things that are memories for me, for having spent summers there as a youth. There were a few summers I would spend the whole summer there, and just great little pieces of information. And this is just a really good source of finding out about the local community. There's Facebook groups like this. So, Joe, just tell us a little bit about yourself and about the Facebook group.
Well, as for me, I'm formerly from Glace Bay. I grew up there as a boomer in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And I experienced a lot of the things that I now write about. Not so much just on Facebook, but I started writing stories and poems many, many years ago. And I always seemed to continue to write in a fashion that connected me back to town and the experiences that I've lived, and that were very similar in scope, no matter what neighborhood you lived in Glace Bay, as a miner's son or part of the mining community, because that was what Glace Bay was basically full of and part of for its entire history. And so in the last 10 or 20 years, with the power of Facebook and social media, I've been able to draw together, literally thousands of people through my Facebook page and start sharing a lot of those experiences that not only that I experienced, but that every one of those thousands of people can relate to, whether it be in Bridgeport, Caledonia, number 2, Steeles Hill, or any other part of Glace Bay, the Waterford, or any of the other communities that are primarily coal towns. And for me, I enjoy it. I really put my time and my experience knowing people and knowing that people want to relive those moments, or even for a short brief time, to be able to say, "Oh my God, geez, Joe, I until I read that, I forgot all about it." And that's, to me, when people tune in and sort of chirp in and say, "Wow, like how do you remember that?" That's who I am now in my retirement years, and that's why I do it.
Well, and what a great way to do it. I mean, like I was saying, it's probably your memories help spur the memories of other people that
Absolutely.
Um, as I find often when I'm talking about something with somebody, you, you get the when they bring up something, it sparks memories and sparks conversations, um, and and sparks an understanding of the history, because it's one thing that I feel is really important. One of the reasons I started my YouTube channel was because people don't understand history. They don't understand their um, history in the wide scope, but when you bring it down to some of the personal things, like the places that you may have had in the past, that well, we're all reminded in my age now, when you go to the store and you listen to the music that's playing on the grocery store, and you think, well, when I was a kid, this used to be the stuff that old people listen to, and then you realize, oh, I'm old because it's the stuff I listen to. It's we're history in a sense, and it's a shame. Often, history has traditionally been a very oral thing that people have, passed on their stories through communicating it and for talking about it. And I think we've lost a lot of that, and we've lost the connections. And doing things like this spurs on conversation, spurs people to start thinking about. And I love the stories. Um, the the fry truck. I remember that from going there as a kid. And my grandmother, before she passed away a couple of years ago, she lived on Water Street. So every time went to visit her, we'd have to drive by, and of course we'd stop there because best fries in the world, I'm sure.
You had that.
Oh,
You
you had to have them.
Absolutely. And when you look at Glace Bay now and you look at Glace Bay then, almost all of those icons are now gone. And like the people in my age group and those who are younger and even older, when you bring them into focus in a story, a poem, a picture attached, they do remember and they do comment and they do share that with friends. I've been receiving questions and connections from people all over the world that have, displaced themselves from Glace Bay. They're in all parts of Canada. They're in all parts of the United States. They're in all parts of other parts of the world, and we get together now because of this group and because of how many people it has connected with. It brings people home to allow to have those connections and conversations face to face at least once a year. I host and promote a group called Let's Get Back to Glace Bay through the fence, the St. Paul's fence, which was in the center of town, and,
Okay.
which was a gathering spot for all of us youth, all of our youth when we were 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, whatever the age group were. And that was our meeting place. No matter if it was an evening on a Friday going to a dance, or if it was coming from school in the afternoon after a full day at St. Mike's or Morrison or whatever. And through the power of, again, social media, we've been able to reconnect with all of those people and bring them home at various times. I try now every year to have at least one reunion in Glace Bay where friends and old comrades and acquaintances can get together and speak face to face about these stories that they've read about, that I've written about, and brought the memories back to focus with. And it's just been an extraordinary way of keeping our feeling of youth alive. And to me, that's what keeps me young.
Well, yeah, definitely keep bringing back those memories and being able to relive the good old days. I know recently I've gotten in reconnected with a few friends from college, and it's just we've been enjoying ourselves, just meeting online, or going to visit one another to just talk about the things of the past that seem so close, but when in the big scope of things, they're hopefully a distance. Just because I'm saying that, just because I'm as close to being 90 now as I was when I started university.
Yeah.
The number of years, when you think of it that way, it seems like, well, maybe it should have been a lot longer than I remember. That time goes fast. But so yeah, I remember, spending, like I said, spent summers in Glace Bay, driving by, cruising,
Drag.
cruising the drag. It's something I found kind of unique to Cape Breton. They kept doing longer probably than a lot of other places.
Yeah, like this morning's, today's little story that I wrote was just about that. Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, no matter what, everybody gathered downtown in Glace Bay of all ages, and you borrow your dad's car if he had one, or you borrow your uncle's car if he had one, or you got together with a bunch of people in a car, and you just drove up and down the street with the music blaring, from music from the '70s, whether it be Creedence Clearwater Revival, or all of the other music had at the time, and everybody on the fence would be waving, singing, listening to the music as you went up and down, and that's Glace Bay changed to a one-way street back in the middle '70s, and I don't know why they did that, because they sort of killed that option of shooting the drag anymore. And it was just it was one of those things that as you were a young person in town, that was part of the regular routine and rotation, and you enjoyed that. It was, again, just one of the parts of youth in Glace Bay that. It never died. It just sort of faded down a little bit to what it once was. And when we go home now, we still wish that we could have that fence in front of the church at St. Paul's, and
Yeah.
once again. But things do change, and the town of Glace Bay, unfortunately, is much of a shadow of itself when you compare the stores and the business people and the merchants who were there back in the '60s and '50s and '70s. And that's one of the sadder parts of this whole process, is that you walk or drive through Glace Bay now in the downtown area, and you don't recognize it anymore. All
No.
but maybe the Savoy Theater, or the church where the St. Paul's fence used to be, or again where the old chip wagon used to be. But none of the landmarks that we know, or we as we knew them, are still there. And when I write about those things, and I bring the attention back, everyone seems to say, "Oh my God!" Like, again, I wish we could go back just for a moment. And
Yeah.
we can't live our lives in the past, but we can laugh and look and reminisce, and that's what keeps all of us a little bit young at heart.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Glace Bay as a whole, I know it is sad because it used to be, they call it the biggest small town in Canada, and it's a mere shadow of what it used to be. Even when you you look at the population, not just numbers, but the types of there was a different type of diversity back then that you had. It seems like as people moved out there, it's changed quite a bit, and it's not you don't have the family stores that have been there for years, because I know I have a picture of my grandmother when she was 19, so it was from like 1930, 41, and she is in front of I believe it's Eins. So
Yeah, Ian's close.
Eames, yeah, yeah. So it's that had been around, and I remember that all my life, having visited there until very very recently. And by recent, I guess I say in the last 20 years, where those places seem to have gone, and people seem to have moved out. Their um, yeah, just growing the downtown isn't the same either. And you could always meet people, friendly people that were always there, and you'd wind up knowing somebody, even as a person that was from away. My father was in the armed forces, so I lived in various places, but Glace Bay was kind of a constant. We go there in the summers a lot of times, and you could always catch up, and all my mom's cousins and stuff were still there, or would be there regularly. And it is a bit of a shadow, going back to it, seeing that. I mean,
when you look at, you kind of hit the nail on the head when you talked about the groups and the people who ran the industry or the stores, especially in downtown Glace Bay. They were Jewish, they were Greek, they were Chinese, they were Polish, they were Italian. These were people who came to Glace Bay in the early 1900s, looking for a better place to live. Didn't know exactly what they were getting into. They were coming to a market that was on the move, or so to speak. And all of those people from those countries knew how to work for a living, and they knew how to make a buck. And in doing so, they were the ones over the years that really grew and made Glace Bay in the downtown area what it was back in those years of the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And like I say, they were the Ellie Marshalls and the David Ians and the all of the pizza shops, the grocery stores, the restaurants. They were all owned almost 90% by people who immigrated into Glace Bay and began to operate businesses that when they when the mining industry started to slow down, and those families had been in town for 40, 50, 60 years, they retired, and unfortunately their families moved out, or they went to university, or they made other ways of working across the country, and that left a vacant or a vacuum in our town that was never refilled again. When those businesses closed, nobody came in to replace them. There were a few that up until recently. There are still some of the core businesses set up by local people that are still were local from way back in the early hundreds, that they weren't immigrants as we call them with regards to the Jewish people and the Greek people and the Chinese. They were already here, and some of those businesses still exist, and we have to give credit to each and every one in their staying power, and we just hope that one day a new industry perhaps would come back to Glace Bay, and we could see that commercial street rebuild itself. That's not going to happen overnight, but it certainly it didn't fade away overnight either. So there is some hope that as we look and hope and seek for a better a better town, that it will eventually rebuild itself.
Yeah.
You see the picture behind me there.
St. Paul.
That's St. Paul's Church. Yeah.
That's where my grandparents went to.
Yeah, and I mean, that was in front of that church. That was the hangout for youth in Glace Bay, and that was the center of town. And you couldn't get like you
got the bowling alley there too.
There was a bowling alley right next door, and it's still bowling alley. Alley is still there, and it's still operational. So that's one of the few things that is still there. And it's sad to see, but even the fence that was there, it was torn down. But you know what? Just to look at that picture and just to read about it, and I'll take today's example of shooting the drag. That was the center of the action. That's where it all began, and that was the core. That was the fun spot.
Just 1 second, Joe.
Yeah.
So just as you mentioned that, I went to the other side of my room and I.
Isn't that something? Where'd you get that at?
From my grandmother.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So probably then this is where she worked.
Oh yeah, at the General Hospital.
At the General, yeah.
What are they made of?
They're some type of plaster.
Very interesting.
Or carved, yeah. They're from Catherine Carnes' collection.
Okay.
The St. Paul's has a pretty important part in my family's history, so it's a
Yeah.
and it's an iconic. It was an iconic building until it burnt.
Well, it sure
Definitely.
was, and it's still there.
Yeah.
It looks a little different than it did back in those days. And that particular picture, that one that's behind me, that was created by Mike Curry's wife,
Okay.
Mike, who owned the Curry's Funeral Home.
Okay. Yep.
Jean Curry. She was quite an artist, and she drew that. And after the reunion we had last year in Glace Bay, the band that we had play for the reunion, a band called the Caledonia Connection.
Okay.
Go figure. Ross McVicker, who was the lead guitar player and probably the leader of that band. They were guys who all together played in different bands and various bands over the years back in the day. They come together and they do gigs for us when we get together and do kind of reunions and things in Glace Bay. And it was him that gave me that. He called me over to the car when he arrived in town the last time we had the reunion. He said, "I got something for you." And he knew my connection to writing about downtown. And he said, "This was for you." And it became a very, just like your miniature
Yeah.
you just showed me. It's a very important piece of iconic art that will be with me for as long as I'm around.
And it's a great story piece to spark conversation too when
Oh, for
somebody
sure.
asks you where is that, what, so it's those type of things that connect us to places and
Sure.
time.
And those iconic locations, like you name any one place where youth used to hang out, whether it was Iggy's Tavern, for example. That's an icon in Glace Bay. The Old Miners Forum, an icon in Glace Bay. The Venice Pizzeria was the first pizzeria in Glace Bay. Nobody really had pizza before. Glace Bay wasn't a pizza town. We were a meat and potatoes town, but yet when pizza became part of our new culture in our youth, we remember that Venice Pizzeria was on Union Street. It was a downstairs and then upstairs location, and that was the go-to for pizza. The old hotel, the Glace Bay Hotel and Grill, owned by the Wang family, the Chinese family. Again, immigrants who came to town and built what was necessary for our town to grow.
Yeah, definitely. And
yeah.
I mean, I have friends in the Jewish community, and Glace Bay used to have one of the biggest Jewish communities in Canada outside of a major city, like the Glace Bay, New Waterford. My friend who was from New Waterford said it's pretty much all but gone now.
A lot of
people have had to move, and I guess it's like any place in Canada. A lot of the small towns have suffered well. The big towns have benefited by the people that have moved from places like Glace Bay that bring that spirit of entrepreneurship and hard work and memories of what of how to treat people.
They were good at it. Like I remember walking into Marshall's Menswell, for example, and that's where I kind of got started with getting involved in my own way of public speaking and talking about politics and talking about world affairs. L.E. Marshall was a gentleman beyond gentlemen, and I would walk in there and he would stop what he was doing. We'd kind of go to the side and we'd have a conversation, or we'd go downstairs where he had a lot of his stuff stored, and we'd just have a conversation about things. And he would ask me what my vision of Glace Bay would be, and we would talk about the future, and we talk about politics, and we talk about just about a little bit of everything. And that was to me like, oh my God, he appreciated my input. I appreciated his input, and we got together like we were just old buddies sitting on the fence down by St. Paul's Church. It was like and you could do that at Ian's. You could do it. You could do it with Ellie Marshall. You could do it in a pizza shop or a restaurant. Uh, you were looked at, no matter if you were young or old or in between, as a customer and a friend. And that was the way Glace Bay honored its own people in its own way, and in a way that it endeared to me to be able to continue today to write about it and pay tribute to all of those people, because they deserved it, and they do continue to deserve it, because I mean, there's no other place that I would have ever wanted to grow up with in my lifetime. I've been all over Canada, and I've been in every city and province and town I think that you can count at. And there's nothing like it. There's just no comparison whatsoever. And I'm not just saying that because I'm biased. I'm saying it because it's true.
No,
Yeah,
and when I go to places, and there's somebody that is from Glace Bay or New Waterford, that area, you can tell if they're running their business, because they have that what you said, that want to. I think a lot of people would probably have looked and, well, why are you spending so much time talking? You're losing business. But those relationships were important. They understood the importance of relationships to
sure,
business in the long run. And
sure did. And I mean, anywhere you go, anywhere across the country or across the world, if you run into somebody, or somebody recognizes you in an airport or in a train station or a bus station or whatever, you're invariably going to hear from them. Oh my God, Joe, what are you doing here, buddy? It's like, and
like,
as late as Saturday afternoon, I was downtown enjoying an ale with my wife, and guy walks in, and he turns around. He says, "Holy smokes, Joe! I haven't seen you in 20 years, boy." And this, it can happen in Halifax. It can happen in Toronto. It can happen in New York. It can happen anywhere, and it does. And you grasp those moments, and you grasp those times, because it goes right back to where you came from and how you were raised.
I know my grandmother was the head of admissions at the General for a while, so she, just about everybody who was Protestant, at least, that had been born there, born in Glace Bay, she knew. So we used to always joke that she could go to China, and she'd probably wind up seeing somebody and being able to strike up that conversation. And it does seem, when you get that, and when people from Glace Bay to get together, you notice it's always there is that always, that connection, whether they even necessarily knew each other. Just so much commonality of growing up.
You didn't have to be, great friends then to still have a very good connection now. I mean, I'll tell you, like, from the thousands of people that I connect with on my Facebook page, I know lots of them. I know a lot of them are great close friends. Some of them are just people I went to school with. Some are people that I probably met here, there, and everywhere. But as you grow older, and as you understand that respect of what we all endured as Glace Bay residents, as Bay Buys, whether you were a male or female, it didn't really matter, girls, guys. You knew that in your heart, you recognized that we were all cut from the same cloth. We all breathe the same coal dust. We all, there's something about that little bit of extra dust in our lungs that, it doesn't always make us ill. It kind of, that little bit of extra credibility in how we relate to each other, I think, and it's something that you can't replace no matter where you're from. There's nothing like it.
Well, what would you say for somebody else that has that vision from the community, wherever they're from, to wanting to reconnect? Like, how easy was it for you to start this and then start to make the connections?
Well, the thing was, and I thought it was kind of like, okay, how am I going to do this? It started around the 2009, the winter of 2009, and I was kind of, after having some serious illness myself. I had to have some heart surgery and stuff, and I was on the rebound, and I was doing some soul searching, and I figured, okay, well, I'm I'm in Halifax, or I'm going to be in Halifax in the next coming years, and people that I always connected with are far away from me, and the power of Facebook started to evolve. And I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to be able to bring people together from our past into Glace Bay in a way that we can reconnect and have a good time? And I reached out and I sent a message out through my little early Facebook page that was very new and very not very common. And I said, okay, what I want to do is I want to organize a come home weekend in 2010 so that people can reconnect and sort of tell the stories of how they grew through Glace Bay in their youth and lifetimes and where they went and how they're now coming back to relive those days. And it was amazing. It was like it took a life of its own. And in a matter of days, there were 1,000 people or more, connecting with me saying, "Oh my God, Joe, like, what a great idea. How are we going to do this? When are we going to do this? What can I do to help? Where will we meet? What will we do? How do we make it a good time?" And when all of that happened, I said, "Okay, this is going to happen." So I reached out to some friends and I said, "Okay, we have to get together in Glace Bay in July of 2010." And this was like the winter time, and we organized a committee and we started putting together plans. And over the winter, we put it all together, and then it was like a magical experience that it just took wings. And every time we went to visit a business or an entrepreneur or somebody to ask for help, they had already heard about it, and they said, "How can we help? How can we get involved?" And like through that process, we ended up with the very first Fence Folk Reunion 2010, and we brought people came home from all over Canada. There were a few people came from the Caribbean. A few people came from Europe. I mean, there were people that just kind of, holy shit, like, how are we going, how did this happen? Anyway, we got home on the 25th, 26th, and 27th of July. We had a meet and greet, and we had a car show. We closed off the street in Glace Bay. We had big dinner, we had a big dance, we had breakfast, we had get-togethers, we filled the weekend with good times and great experiences where people could get together and chat and tell stories and relive those moments, all from the core of the area that we hung out in, the St. Paul's fence.
Yeah.
And at the end of that weekend, we had this was not about raising money. We had this wasn't about making money or raising money or doing anything of the sort. We just wanted to reconnect with people and get them back together, and that worked. That worked its magic to an extreme. But at the end of the weekend, we sat down, the committee, and we had all this money that we raised, literally thousands and thousands of dollars, and we said, "Gee, well, what are we going to do with this money?" And first thing was, that particular weekend, we read in the news about a young man who had been who had taken ill over in Japan. He was teaching English over there, and he was in very serious condition. And we all looked at each other and said, that family is in pretty dire straits. Maybe we can help them. Maybe we can offer them a contribution to assist in getting son home. Everybody said, "Yeah, okay, let's do that." So we got in touch with the gentleman's father. We told him who we were. We guaranteed, "Listen, this is not a joke. We want to help you get your son home." And so we agreed to meet with him the next day, and we met him in Sydney. His boy was from Whitney Pier, and we gave him a very generous donation. And we told him that, we wished him well and that we wanted to get his son home where they could be with him and be close to him and help him get, heal and get back to who he was. And so that was that was their first donation. And then we took all of the other money and we donated to all the charities in Glace Bay that we could think of: the Glace Bay Food Bank, the St. Paul's alumni, the townhouse. Like we had, again, all this money. It was like close to $20,000. And again, we weren't about to put it in
Yeah.
our pockets and walk away and say, okay, let's share this and have a
Well,
good weekend on our own. Let's go traveling. That didn't even enter into our minds. It was like, let's give this back to the people that came together with us and give it to good causes that will have a better day tomorrow and a better week next week. Just because we had a great time in bringing everybody back together, and that was that was the thrux of and the full spirit of what we were wanting to do, and yet it turned out in such a way that the magic just kept spreading itself over and over, and then
very, very Glace Bay thing to do, to,
absolutely. And I mean, there was no blueprint for this. It
yeah.
just came together. We had some really good people who worked on the planning of it over the winter and into the spring and summer, and the town itself gave us a lot of opening options to, like, you just can't go close the street down for a party in the center of town at any time you want. So it took some well, you didn't even have to bend their arm. You just had to mention to them what you were doing and why, and automatically it was like, okay, we're with you. Let's do this. And like I say, all the businesses around town jumped in. With all the people coming into town, like, they benefit from it. I mean,
Oh, definitely.
and I mean, of course, when you get a lot of people together like that, you're going to have a few ales, of course, and
Well, it wouldn't be Glace Bay if you.
in Glace Bay, and and so the bars who were involved, they had their, well, I'm going to have to say this, they had their best bar sales ever. For one day, if we had an event at the main event in Glace Bay, like the meet and greet,
Yeah.
the owner there would tell you that was the largest bar ever that he ever witnessed, because so many people came and they were thirsty and they had a good
Yeah.
time. They benefit. He benefited, and they enjoyed gathering in his establishment, and so it was win-win all the way around. Same thing. We talk about icons. Well, the St. Anne's Berry Center was still there at the time. That's where we held our major dance. Again, they had the biggest bar they ever had in at an event in Glace Bay over the probably 50 or 60 years that they had been in operation, and just so on and so forth. And everywhere you went, people talked about, how the heck did this happen, and how, who started this, and how many people were there, and what are we going to do it again next year, and all of this kind of stuff. And so when you were trying to repeat a magical moment, it's kind of hard to do that.
Yeah.
So we put it aside for a while. We didn't have one every year, but then over the last couple of years, with the help of a few people in business, like Mike Jameson, for example, who owns the big event and was very generous in offering his location to allow us to gather, over the last couple of summers, and gave us the green light to do that for as many years as we want to continue. We'll do that. And the Caledonia connection, like the boy said, as long as we're able to, pluck a guitar and belt out a tune, we'll be there with you. And as you can see, you couldn't chisel the smile off of my face just talking about this, and that's what it's all about. And it's not just me that carries that smile. Everybody that comes to these events and reconnects with people. When you take the pictures and you look back at them and you see, somebody face to face that hasn't met for the last 30 or 40 years, and you see the expressions when they say, "Oh my God, like I haven't seen you since grade 10 or grade 12 or whatever." That's what it's about, man. That's what it is.
And probably made Commercial Street alive again. Like,
We do, and yeah,
yeah.
like, and town itself, like, none of us are getting any younger. The last few years have been very difficult, in the realm of losing great friends. I mean,
Yeah.
these last couple of years in my life, I've lost more friends than I would ever want to,
Yeah.
add on, start saying, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I would rather be going down to Glace Bay for a reunion of old friends in a place where we could meet and have that kind of a good time, rather than going to a celebration of life or a funeral.
And
And
what a better way to remember and actually celebrate each other, where you're still able to, and
absolutely, yeah,
and then knowing even the when you're gone, your friends are going to be gathering the next year or the next couple of years, and they'll be talking about you and they'll be remembering you.
exactly. And last year when we had the reunion, one of my best friends of all time was Barry Bizon. I don't know if you remember Barry Bizon. Barry knew everybody in Glace Bay. Everybody knew Barry. Barry was instrumental in the first reunion in 2010. He was very instrumental in last year's reunion. And Barry was one of those guys that did fundraisers in coordination with a lot of organizations in Glace Bay. Sadly, right after last year's reunion, Barry passed away very suddenly. And so this year we wanted to pay tribute to Barry. And so we basically put a name on this year's reunion as the Barry Bizon Memorial Reunion. And
Oh,
and that's just kind of shows you that um, how much faith we had in him, and how much Barry added to the fabric of Glace Bay over his lifetime, and how great of a guy he was. And sadly, again, we've lost so many people in the last few years that some of those folks had been there last year or in previous years. There's going to be people in next year's reunion that are here now, but won't be there in next year's reunion. But um, we talk about them. We bring light to their lives. We talk about how their lives made us better people, and that's all we can do now. I'm 71.
so and just like even talking about the stories on your Facebook page, what a great way to preserve them for the next generations that
Well,
are coming, right? That
yeah,
might never have met these people, but get the chance to actually hear about them. I know one of the things I love, my grandfather, he was from Dalkin originally, and I've gone on. They have a little Facebook page, and
yeah,
I mentioned it a few times. I've connected with some cousins that live far away, but ever I mentioned my great grandmother, um, the people that remember her from growing up, the stories they tell, that I would not have. She died when I was 9, so I hadn't seen her since I was 6. So things I would not have known or about her, or just acute memories in my head, like uh, her making her oatmeal cookies on her in her old coal oven, and just things that just what I it just yeah I would be lost. And so it's wonderful that you have this outlet for people to share, so they can be remembered, and they remember the places and the times. Um it's important. It's
yeah. Like when as we were much younger, we didn't have the power of social media that we do now. We didn't. Well, there was no such thing as social media. You had a one line telephone that if it rang twice, it was for you. If it rang once, it was for your neighbor. But
and
now
that was the social media.
now like I say, here we are talking. You're in PEI. I'm in Bedford right now, and we're having this conversation about all of the good things that happened back in those days, and we can do that. And like it's to me again, I write these stories so that I can remember, and it helps me with my memory. I mean, as we get older, our memories get a little more foggy, and in doing so, with all of especially the last year or two, I've written so many stories that I'll reconnect back to Glace Bay and the coal industry and our lifetime and how we were brought up and all of the various elements of what Glace Bay meant to me and the thousands who lived there during that same period of time. So now I want to put this into a book, and that's my next project.
Awesome. The next, awesome. Well,
Yeah,
I'd love to talk to you when you have that book written. Definitely talk to you again, and that'd be awesome.
yeah. That the thing is now I've got so many stories I have to kind of narrow it down to kind of make. You know, get the ones that best fit in chapter one or in the first run of a series, and then probably follow it up with another one maybe a couple of years down the road. And what I did about 10 or 12 years ago, I did my own book. Like I printed it myself. I had it done here in Halifax, and I sold over 500 copies of it. And these were stories about more or less, again, living in Glace Bay during the coal era, and all of the different things that you did, from a little boy right up until, you went to school and beyond, and all of those things that in your neighborhood that were important. And you read that stuff now and you kind of laugh and you say, "Oh my God, like what kind of what a great growing up period it was." And you have to be able to, in my world, yeah, I write that down first of all for myself, and then now with the power of social media, I love to share it with as many people as are willing to read it and enjoy it the same way I do.
Well, I'm sure you tell people now about the siren going off at 8 o'clock to tell you it was curfew time.
Yeah,
The kids would look at you, what? Curfew?
yeah. What's a curfew? Most of them say, "What's a curfew?"
Curfew,
You
yeah.
know, younger kids, "What's a curfew?"
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, but there used to be an alarm at all of the schools because of the Cold War, the nuclear siren alarm. Do you remember that?
No.
Well,
A little
every
earlier than me.
every school had an alarm. It was on a pole next to the school, and we were all given an exercise that if you ever hear that alarm, that means there's probably the start of a nuclear war, and to get under your seat and get under your chair and blah 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 blah. But that siren was because of the Cold War, something that you had to be mindful of, and it was, if you tell people about that today, they would say, "No, that couldn't be." But
Not in
yeah,
Glace
it
Bay.
was. It wasn't just in Glace Bay.
Oh, I know.
The universal thing,
But I'm saying people, if they call that Glace Bay, people wouldn't have worried about it's not a big city. Who's going to attack Glace Bay? But
who's going to attack? Yeah, who's going to drop a nuclear bomb in Glace Bay? But I mean, it wasn't. You drop if there's a nuclear war, it doesn't matter where you're going to be. It's we don't
yeah,
want to go down that road.
it's
Do
going
we?
to help. It's not going to matter as much as that desk would help you.
No, no. Getting under the desk or hiding in a closet is not going to help you very much. But no, it was like I say. The little things that you did in the neighborhood. Like when I was a young fella, my dad was a coal miner, and we had indoor plumbing, all right, but we didn't have an elaborate bathroom. We had a toilet and a sink, and if you wanted to take a shower, we didn't have such a thing. You had to go down to the pit. You had to go down to the wash house, with the men on
Yeah.
Saturday afternoon, and that's how that was your weekly wash.
A friend of mine, he grew up in Glace Bay, and his wife didn't understand what his fascination was with. He never takes a shower hardly. It's a luxury to him. He does like to sit back with a bottle of Stella or something and then have a bath. And
Yeah.
but yeah,
Um,
he said just force a habit. I remember putting. I remember well. Um, like you're not quite my mom's age, but close to it. But in the 80s, I was helping my cousins put a shower into their parents' house, and I remember I was 13, 14 at the time, and I was helping my cousins who were older. They were in their 20s, and so I was mixing them drinks, and of course, the McKinley's pop. You only knew what it was by the cap on it sometimes.
yeah.
I remember they asked me to get them some rum in the whatever the McKinley's version of Sprite was. They
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
they wanted. So I mistakenly the cap was off and it was white cream soda. So, but I remember, putting the shower in. I remember putting the same thing in my grandma's house, was putting a shower in around the same time.
Yeah, like most of us, most of the company houses, if not
Yeah.
all, they had a bathroom, basically a toilet. That's all they had. And when they were all built, they had outhouses.
Yeah.
So, hey, when we were kids, we were young fellas. Dad'd say, "Okay, well, come on, we'll go down to the wash house," and you were just one of all of the rest of the neighborhood boys who did
Yeah.
the same thing. And I had a big family, and six of my family were sisters. So they used what wash tub we had in the privacy that they could find. So us boys, we found another way.
Yeah.
If it wasn't the wash house, you go to the shore with a bar of soap and jump in the jump in the ocean.
And yeah, I can't imagine like telling people that today. Like when I moved to PEI, I was shocked, but I'm not that in PEI. It wasn't until 1981 that the government actually in 1981 the government was subsidizing people to get rid of their outhouses still.
Yeah, well, I believe that
Oh
because
yeah,
I mean, especially in the outer areas, like not
yeah,
so much in the downtown core areas, but out in the countrysides and on the streets that didn't have
yeah.
full sewer or water systems. Yeah, that was I'm sure there are still areas that don't fully have that available to them in
And,
Nova Scotia and PEI and even Newfoundland, I guess, in many areas. But yeah,
yeah, you
they didn't
know.
know how to do.
And the good thing is, if there was a power outage, you could still use the outhouse. Didn't stop
Yeah,
running.
exactly. Yeah, no, listen, there was so many differences between then and now, and what you did, how you survived. You survived on pennies and nickels and dimes, and you look back when you first maybe saw the ice cream truck pull into your neighborhood, and oh my God, what's that? I remember the first time I was coming from church. I was very young. I was probably 8 or 9 years of age. And I was coming from church, and I come around the top of the turn, and I can hear these bells ringing. I'm thinking, what the heck is that? Those are not church bells. And as I got closer down the road where I was living, I seen this, multicolored truck. Wow, what is that? It was an ice cream truck. And of course, you see an ice cream truck, you want an ice cream, but then you realize my parents don't have nickels and dimes to buy ice creams for 9 kids. And so if you were lucky, maybe, if it was a good week and your dad had a few extra coins, you might get a 5 cent ice cream. If not, you were going to stand there and watch everybody else if they had one, lick their treat, and maybe next week you'd be lucky enough. But that gave you the encouragement then to okay, if you can't afford the things that those little things that perhaps would be called luxuries, you had to find a way to make money for yourself. So in your neighborhood, you picked berries, you chopped wood, you went down along the shoreline, you picked coal, you smelt it. You waited for the tide to come in, and you'd sell the smelt that you caught down along the shoreline. You do anything in the neighborhood to make a dollar. Not even, well, I wouldn't say a dollar, a
Yeah.
nickel or a dime or a quarter, because a dollar was a big deal back in those days. But and again, it goes back to survival and learning how to survive in the neighborhoods, and it extrapolated as you got a little bit older into maybe $1 or $2, because you would pick up the pace a little bit. And well, in my case, I became a paper boy. And well, pretty well all of us, if we had an opportunity, loved to deliver the papers, because you were making a few bucks, and that led you to be able to leave the neighborhood and maybe go to town and play a game of snooker at the pool room or something like that. So
And if you're lucky, you might make a few more dollars.
that's right. Yeah, if you were any good, if you got to be any good at it, then you challenged the guy that was coming behind you, or you played a game of poker pool or pill pool, as we used to call it. And yeah, it was all of these things that I talk about are relative to the things that I write about. And when no matter what the theme of the particular story is, you'll get various other people who will chime in. The people that went to the pool room, they chime in on that story. The people that went to the dances, they chime in on a different story. The people that went to the miners' forum skating on Sunday night, they chime in. And all of these stories are hopefully going to be in my first collection that if I can get it together over the next couple of months, I'd like to have it out by Christmas time.
Well, that would be awesome. What a great Christmas gift.
Yeah.
Definitely. Let me know. Make sure you can contact it. I'll be looking on the Facebook page, of course, to see what's happening there. I really enjoyed this talk. I enjoyed walking down a little bit of memory lane with you. Um, so, yeah, and I hope your story has encouraged others to, to know that they can start searching for those. Because you know what, no matter what small town you're from in Canada or whatever, somebody probably has a similar group, or if not, start one, and you'll never know what you might find, and the connections you might make, and or reconnections you might make. Um, so I really do appreciate you, Joe. So
Well, and just hearing from you and getting the opportunity to have this conversation, this wouldn't have happened if my stories weren't out there on Facebook. And when you contacted me last week, I think that name rings a bell, but I don't think we've ever met. And here we are now discussing and talking about those times, those eras, and those peoples. And for me, it does my heart good because I know that what I'm doing is reaching across various other stratosphere to connect people in many other ways. And what I would have just picked at one, there are various options now, and just one little thing. After the funny thing was, you contacted me on I think it was Wednesday of last week. A day or so later, a young man from Glace Bay contacted me, and he chairs a group of youth in Glace Bay, and he reads a lot of my stories and connects to my Facebook page. And he said, "You know what? I think the young people that I work with in the youth group in Glace Bay here would love to hear from you, Joe. And would you be interested in coming down and maybe meeting with us on the 19th of September?" And kind of giving a little bit of insight as to why you do what you do, and maybe connect to some of the young people that might want to learn on how to do things that you do, or just on how to express themselves and how to, not only pick up from what you're doing, but take a few pointers on how they themselves might be able to break out of a doldrum that they may be in and do something that is just so different from what is the norm. And you'll be able to just share with them just a few ideas of what makes people happy in a way that it doesn't cost anything other than sitting down with a pen in your hand.
exactly, and there's so much you can do with that. What's especially now more than a pen with the internet out there, the
Yeah.
connections you can make,
Yeah.
and the impact you can have that you might never know. So.
Well, that's it. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to join in that session. And from there, like I say, all of these connections and all of these ways of putting your word out there and expressing yourself in whatever way you can in today's world. There's you can't put a price on that. You just love what you do, and you just want to continue to keep doing it and making people smile as a result of the stories you tell and the connections that you make.
Exactly.
And I'm happy that you and I have made this connection because again, it's like that's what turns the world around, and that's what makes the stories spread to people that may not have heard them yesterday. Maybe they'll hear them tomorrow, and maybe they'll continue to find stories that will connect to them on a wider scale as we go forward.
And maybe even if they don't have a connection to Glace Bay, that Glace Bay attitude and that Glace Bay, the good feelings like you talked about,
Yeah,
and positive outlook at life
yeah,
will maybe rub off on them.
and draw away from that negative like anybody that tries to make any kind of a negative connotation to anything I write on Facebook. I'm sorry to say, well, I'm not sorry to say because I usually delete them. I don't want any negativity on that page. It's not about negative things. Sure, there's been things in the past that aren't the best, but you know what? I try to put a good spin on it all, and we just don't want people coming in and adding the negative side to a story that has so much good to spread in a way that makes people happy. So in that way, I try to make things stay positive and keep people with a smile on their face rather than a frown.
Exactly. That's all you can do.
That's right.
And you shouldn't expect much more from a Bay boy.
Well, that's as a Bay boy, that's one of the things I like to do and I like to share. And I thank you for the opportunity today to have this conversation and share a little bit of like I say, what I am and who I am and why I do what I do.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Just stick there.
That brings us to the end of another episode of the How We Got Here podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Brian loves hearing from you, so please feel free to leave a comment below. If you have a burning genealogy question or a fantastic idea for a future episode, send an email to podcast@howwegothere.ca. And don't forget to check out our new genealogy community at https://familycircle.howwegothere.ca.